Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are your hosts. Movie Club is the show where we pick a movie every week and discuss it just like a book club. On today's show, we are covering the Brazilian crime drama, City of God. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 2002, City of God was directed by Fernando Meirelles and Katia Lund and stars Alexandra Rodriguez, Leandro Firmino, and Mateus Nocturgale. Sorry for mispronouncing any of those names. In the slums of Rio, two kids' paths divulge as one struggles to become a photographer and the other a kingpin. It is currently ranked 26 on IMDb's Top 250 and currently has a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd and is ranked number 13 on its Top 250. It was nominated for 4 Oscars, including Best Film Editing, Best Cinematography, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Director. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for this film. Not a lot of people here in America have seen this movie. You've probably heard a lot about it. So we are going to be spoiling quite a bit about this movie. So if you do want to watch it first, we highly recommend you go out and watch it and then come back here and listen to what we have to say, because there's a lot to spoil here, and there's some really interesting things that happen in this movie, and you don't want them to be spoiled. So go check it out. But stay tuned to the end of the show to find out what movie we're covering next week. Alrighty, Kevin. So this week is City of God, a rather large movie when it comes to kind of cinephiles and like Letterboxd and even IMDb. People seem to really love this movie because it is highly rated on both platforms. And it's one of those movies that I had never seen before. I don't know if you'd even heard of it.
Nope, not at all. I typed in when I looked at we have a little document that show us what movies are coming out. I put in City of Gold. So I'm glad I made sure that I put in the correct movie, because I looked at it real fast and I was like, City of Gold. I'm like, I don't think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's a different movie. But yeah, so this was my pick. I picked it because, again, it is so just highly renowned, and I had to see if the hype was justified, and it was just about time. And I only really knew one part of this movie, and I didn't know how big a part of the movie it was going to be. And I'll talk a little bit about that when we dive into it more. But I'm very curious because I haven't seen your Letterboxd review yet. Because I know you just uploaded it right before we started.
Yep.
So I went into this movie. We had talked about this yesterday, actually, right after doing the stream. I couldn't stop thinking about this movie all day when I had seen it originally. And, my respect kind of grew for it more and more as I kind of sat there with it a little longer. So how did you, kind of general thoughts? How did you come out of it for the first time after not hearing of it or anything?
So general thoughts, we live in two separate worlds. It feels like it is ridiculous. I didn't think I knew of this has I didn't know this was a gangster movie. Pretty much this is a gangster movie outside of the US, which is It was very intriguing in that part, but it's just so different on how slums work and how downtown LA, some people call that the projects and everything, but this is totally different, and I was in for it. I loved it.
Yeah, this movie is fantastic, and when we were originally talking before, I had said that I thought that this movie was, in some ways, it's not a remake, but it feels like a Brazilian Goodfellas. It feels like a gangster movie about people who wanted to become gangsters and wanted to rise to the top of their respective world, and all of the things that go wrong with that, being too big for your britches, too big to fail, so to speak. And it's absolutely fascinating. Specifically, everything having to do with, and he's in all scope of things, he's a side character for me. He really becomes the main character. Lil Z, one of the best movie villains in a very long time that I've seen, and I do regret making the top 10 villains video a little early now, because he would definitely be mentioned in the realistic category for sure. Like,
Yeah,
he is just, oh man,
she's just ruthless. He didn't care, and that's why it was nice with his friend. Was it Bobby? Was his friend? Oh gosh,
Benny.
the one that, huh?
Benny.
Yeah, Benny. He had to counteract him, which I always like when they have like the bad cop, good gangster, bad gangster in this. But I like how the perspective wasn't with Lil Z or Benny. It was with the photographer that we don't really get a lot of him in this movie. It's
Yeah.
mainly a part of the drug scene and the gang, the slums and the gangster life of what happens. So which is really nice to see that not a the main character is not the main character in this whole thing.
Yeah, they're in some ways they are, because we are hearing it from his perspective, obviously. So we're seeing things as he understands them, which, it does feel very documentary like. And there's a lot of people who say that this film is documentary like, in the fact that this is based on a true story. All these people are real people, and these things happen in some capacity. I can't speak to how close to reality it is, and if the names are all the same and all that, but it's based on true events. Which is, I mean, if you know anything about Brazil and like the favelas and the slums in Brazil, you can see things like this happening for sure. So it's not like the most out of this world thing, but like the way that the film portrays and shows not only the characters, which, I wouldn't say, and maybe my one kind of critique about this movie is like, I don't really care about any of the characters. I think because that they're all, I mean, with the exception of Rocket, the photographer main character, who's just really a narrator and voice at this point. Everyone else is just not a good person.
No.
Like, and so, but like in that you do, I don't want to say you care about them, but you want to see what happens. You want to see them get their due. I mean, even the characters that, like, I would say the only character they really push you to like more is Benny. And then when he eventually dies, it's like, it's a gut punch to not only to you, but to Little Z, who's his best friend.
Not even to that, to the whole community.
Yeah.
Because when the kid goes back to Garrett's place, which that is a great name for a white person in the slums, he goes, "You just killed like the best part about the city of God, or the best part about this town," and then wabam, and it's like, it was true. He was the middleman. He was the one that talked sense into everybody, and now that's gone. It's just going to be all out war.
It was one of those things where, like, at first I was like, well, why didn't Garrett just take that guy and then shoot him and then be like, this was a mistake. He acted on his own. I brought justice for you. Let's put this behind us. Like, they could have taken that route, but no, he sticks by his guy because Garrett knows conflict is inevitable with Lil Z. And now that Benny is out of the picture, it's just going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not an if, it's a when.
Yeah, and that when has been dramatically pushed forward. We see him go out to kill Garrett that night.
Yeah, well, he's always wanted to kill Garrett before Benny passed away. So Benny not giving him restraint is like the green light, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. And like the need for revenge too, then becomes like, oh shit, this isn't good. And it's absolutely fascinating. But I do want to talk about, speaking of Little Z, the one thing that I did know going into this movie was that Little Z was a villain character, and that he, as a child, went and killed everyone in a hotel. I knew that happened. Yeah, I didn't know that, so it was very interesting to see that on the first watch. And I'm like, well, when they show back, because they don't show who did it, but you see all the, and you're like, what happened? They didn't do any of this. So it was a good little twist, but that's how his mind works. That's you get to
Yeah.
little bit know more about the character.
And that the dehumanization of Little Z, or Little
Mm-hmm.
Dice, as he is known in the beginning, is incredible. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's this little kid who looks like he's maybe 6 years old,
Yeah,
and he's just ruthlessly gunning people down. It is horrifying
and
in some
he's
ways.
laughing at it too.
Yeah,
Like he he was having fun, which is it's disturbing
yeah.
sometimes.
And in many ways, it almost feels similar to a Joker-like character. This is someone who just does not care and wants, like, obviously he's not the same as the Joker for what he wants. He wants power and control and to be the top dog. Um, but like that disregard for norms, for human life, for things like that is just what's so incredibly shocking, and leads us to one of the best and one of the hardest scenes to watch in this whole movie, which is when Little Z and his thugs go to take on the runts,
Mm-hmm.
and the runts run away and they capture two of the kids.
Yeah.
I Going into that sequence, which I'm not going to go into details because of YouTube, and I don't want to take a chance of like anything getting taken down, but it is a very hard scene to watch. I don't really like kids, but I did not enjoy watching that at all.
Mm-mm. No, it was very, but that's what makes him such a good war. I'm gonna call him a warlord because that's basically what
Sure.
he is. Because he didn't care, no matter how old you were, how young you were. If you got in his way or stepped on his foot, no pun intended there. I totally forgot that that's what happened. Um,
Yeah.
but he didn't care, and that's what made him such a good villain in this movie.
And the editing of that sequence, I
Hmm.
think what I originally warned you, because I had watched this before you did, and I said, be
Hmm.
careful, the editing is a little odd in the beginning. It's
Yeah.
very choppy in the beginning, and it's kind of distracting. It definitely fits the vibe as you go on, and I think it
Hmm.
grows on you, which is what good editing should do. But like that sequence, just the way that it's shot, there's like the sequence where like Little Z is goading the kid into shooting one of them,
Yeah.
and he's like the way the camera's pointing up at them, it makes you feel like you're there as
Yeah.
one of those kids, which is incredible. But also just like the darkness of that scene. I like, oh,
Hmm.
choose your hand or your foot. Oh, we'll do the hand. We'll do the hand. It goes for the foot,
Yeah.
and then like there's and what's so masterful too is that the sequence then where he goes over to the kid and he says, "I want you to shoot one of them." There's no like music drop. There's no cue. Like
Mm-mm.
it's just thrown in conversation. You're like, where most audience members would probably be like, "What did he just say?" Like it's so well done. It's very hard to watch, um,
Yeah.
but very very well done and very well executed.
Hmm.
Um, and Yeah, I think it just goes to show more of the character of Little Z, but also the people who are around him, because obviously they're complicit in it.
Hmm.
They don't go the path of showing someone who's like, oh, I'm not okay with the killing. Even Benny is okay with the violence. It's just that
Hmm.
he doesn't like go out of his way to do it. Like he's more of a
Yeah.
playboy, right? And so that's like, but everyone just goes along with it. No one's like, oh, I'm against the killing. I don't like it. Like they all see a necessity in it, and I
Hmm.
think the movie is really good at showing this necessity of violence.
Well, that's what they showed that with the character that gets into Carrot's gang. Uh, I forget his name, but oh crap, he goes into Carrot's gang and he says, "Here's my stipulation: no,
Oh,
we're not killing."
Knockout Ned,
Yeah,
I think.
n-
Yeah,
yeah, not kill. We don't kill innocents, but then he progressively kills the innocent people in this movie. So it shows that he has some form of violence is necessary in this.
yeah. It's like even again going back to that Joker-like metaphor, right? Like it just like that Knockout Ned was a good person. Everyone liked him, and
Hmm.
then just one bad day led to him kind of devolving. and becoming what he didn't want to become, which is it's a sad story for the movie, and ultimately he ends up dying as well because of a mistake he made. So like everyone gets their justice for the most part in this movie, except for the runts.
Yeah.
The movie ending with them walking away, just like
giggling and laughing and saying what they can take over.
The movie was like the movie with the sequence we talked about. I was like, oh man, that sucks that happened to it. Like that sucks. And then they showed the kids getting away with them. Like, I'm back to hating kids again.
Yeah.
But like the way, like, this is a major spoiler for the movie. So the way that the runts are eventually the downfall of Little Z is really something, and it really reminds me of. This is going to be an interesting comparison. It reminds me of the villain death or defeat from The Lion King, where in The Lion King, Scar is thrown off the rock, whatever, and then he's surrounded by the hyenas, and he's like, "Oh, we'll rebuild, we'll do all this again." And then they're like, "Nah, you called us kind of bad people or whatever," and then they kill him. It felt the exact same here, because like as soon as the cops walk away, the runts come up and it's like, "All right, well, we got to do a couple of holdups to get the business going again." And they're like, whatever, and then just start shooting. So it's like it felt so similar, and I don't know if that's intentional, but it really felt close, and almost like a cool homage.
Yeah, well, and you got to think about it too. Those kids probably don't want him to be leader because they want to be the next leader.
Well, they're also part of Garrett's gang.
Yeah.
So they're from Garrett's neighborhood, and he's at war with Garrett, and then he literally gives them guns, and he's like, "Fight for me instead, and you can have these guns." And they're like, they don't care. There's no allegiance there.
Yeah.
Like it's just really fascinating. And like I think like you said with Inglourious Basterds, though, I'm kind of to change topics. This movie's broken out into chapters.
Yes.
Like a book or like a story, and actually kind of lends into the idea that obviously Rocket wanted to be a photographer or a journalist in some regards. And it kind of feels like a story he'd written, right?
Yeah,
like it's in chapters.
Really does.
Which is really nice to help you kind of keep track of where you are in the story, and also what characters to focus on, because there are a lot of characters in this movie.
They did get a little confusing, like in the middle, especially when they were younger, and then it just shows them when they're older, and you're like, you kind of can't put them two together. So, but with those chapters or sequences that they show at the bottom of the screen, it really does help you. Like, okay, we're going to be talking about Little Z or Little Dice right now, but someone came in as Little Z, so is that Little Dice? So it gives you kind of like a little bit more suspense in that, because you don't know if this is the same character that when he was little. So that's what was cool about it. It didn't just give you like a chapter one, the intro. It was I don't know what chapter one was, but it was it was
like the Trinity or something. It was the three older kids.
Yeah, and then it would focus on the three older kids, and then some of the littler kids that will eventually be the next main topic, which was really nice.
Yeah, because their story is important to both Little Z, but also to Rocket, right? Because Rocket's brother is one of those three and is killed. Little Z is the one who kills him, and it's so crazy. I don't know if you caught it, but every time that Little Z encounters Rocket, he never remembers who he is.
Nope, he doesn't.
Until he's like, "Oh, he's Goose's brother," and you're like, and he's like, "Oh yeah," like it doesn't even click that he shot him or anything, and he wouldn't be there for revenge or anything. Which is just one of those crazy moments as well. This movie's. There's a lot going on here, and I do get it. And luckily, all the characters have like nicknames. So like Rocket, Lil Z, Benny, like they're easy to remember. It's not like full names, like John Hinkenberger or something like that. I don't know. Like they're shorter and easy to remember, and especially for a film that is from a foreign country, it's a lot easier to help distinguish and remember characters by name.
Very true.
So, okay, and then now we're coming to the end here. We don't really have a whole lot else to say. And since it was my turn to pick the movie this week, Kevin, what are your final thoughts and your final score?
So final thoughts and score is, will I be watching this movie again anytime soon? That's a big one of my things is is it a good movie to rewatch? No, I will not be rewatching this probably for a little bit, just because of how gritty and how hard it is to watch uh for me, especially with like all the little kids and the violence and everything like that, which I'm okay with violence, but little kids and violence just doesn't mix with me too well. But the cinematography in this, the narration was excellent in this movie, I felt like, as well. I did give it a 90 out of 100, so that's 4 stars out of 5. um Go see this movie. It's and make your own judgment on what it is. It is a very hard movie to watch, as we said throughout this whole video, but it's such a good movie. It had me hooked at like 10 minutes in, and I started watching it last night, and I got maybe an hour and 30 minutes in, and then it was like 12 o'clock or like 11:30. I'm like, I have to go to bed though, but I didn't want to, which is always good in a movie that wants you to stay up later than it is.
Yeah, it's one of those movies like it does keep you hooked the entire way, and the energy and the frenetic pacing just doesn't let go, because you know that something could happen at any time.
Oh yeah,
which is kind of crazy. But as for me though, I said that it's a very disturbing film, but it works in its favor. It's a pretty dark movie. It's unrelentingly dark. It's not easy to watch, but you should watch it because it is one of the best films about organized crime that I've ever seen. It is shot more of a documentary style, so sometimes the editing can be hard to get used to, but the cinematography is incredible. We also just get incredible performances and one of the best villains in movie history, in my opinion. I would say if you call yourself a film fan at all, it is essential viewing. And in many ways, the closest thing we get to a horror movie in some regards, just because of some of the darker and disturbing content.
Oh yeah,
some of it is kind of scary. But because of that, I really enjoyed this film. Like Kevin said, though, it's probably not something that I'm going to watch again for a while. I'll probably buy it to have it in my collection, but like I don't think that it's something I'm going to go out of my way to watch again, unless it's like you're having a movie night and someone's like, I want to watch something a little bit meatier, like okay, well, here we go, we'll do it. But I ended up giving it a 97 out of 100, which is a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which you can check. Our links are down here below our names if you want to see what we thought of those and other movies. And also, something interesting to note, this is the first film, I believe this is episode 34, 33, something like that, where it's our first female director film.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is interesting because if you watch the Academy Awards for this year, where this film was nominated for Best Director, it only nominated Fernando Meirelles. It didn't nominate Katia Lund, which is interesting. And on IMDb and on Letterboxd, she's getting the full credit now for helping direct the film. I don't know if there's a reason behind that. Totally. I mean, like, whoever worked on this film should get all the attention in the world. Oh, she's co-director. That's why. Co-director, not a director. But she gets the credit on IMDb. It's worth it to point out she is a director on this film, so she gets the credit. And, watch more female-directed movies. So the question now falls to you. What did you think of City of God? We'd love to hear what you have to say down in the comments down below. But remember to be respectful of one another, because Little Z will probably come for you. Next week, we'll be covering the romance drama Your Name. So make sure to watch it before next week so you aren't spoiled. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us here on YouTube. You can follow us on all social media platforms at REEL Watchers. Also, we have our weekly live stream that goes live every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we go over movie news, reviews, and so much more, as well as just chatting with anyone who likes to sit there and watch us. We appreciate anyone and everyone that comes by. But that's going to be it for this week. See you guys next week. And again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep those eyes on the screen.